Pokemon is the biggest media franchise in the world. With a new generation of games starting on the Switch soon, films continually being released, including a live action one, and the anime series ongoing, this juggernaut of a franchise isn't going away. But for the last 23 or so years since Red and Blue was released in Japan, much like the Pokemon themselves, the anime series has evolved. Today, we're going to look at how the Pokemon anime series has evolved from hand-drawn cells in the 90s to the fluid movement of fully digital animation of now, and how the series has always been at the cutting edge of animation in Japan. The Pokemon anime started airing on April the 1st, 1997, and 8 months after, it was taken off the air in December following the infamous Porygon incident. And since being brought back 4 months after that, the series has aired over 1,000 episodes and has been broadcast nearly every week since 1998, which is surprising because according to Masaki Iwane, a key animator and episode director on the series since the beginning of the franchise, the series was only supposed to run for a year and a half, or basically just the Kanto region episodes. It must have been popular. Who knew? Since then, the animation production has evolved from the 90s anime standard of cell animation to drawing on paper and scanning the sheets in to digipaint them, to finally moving completely digital in Sun and Moon. No paper required. The Pokemon series is produced at OLM under various different teams. Kanto-chan, oha! Oha! These teams are named for their production supervisor and work to make sure episodes are delivered on schedule and to test upcoming technologies through their side studio, OLM Digital. But first, let's look at the original techniques used: cell animation. The earliest known cell from the series is this one, that was done in 1996, which looks like it appears from episode 98 of the original series. As you can see from the comparison, it's not actually in the episode and was most likely used to show off the visual style before the series started, which then inspired the episode. These animation cells were drawn by hand, painted by hand, layered by hand, and then photographed to just create one single frame of animation. Tough stuff. Masaki Iwane spoke about the process in a March 2015 interview with the magazine Animage, where he explained that it was really difficult animating on cells due to the physical laying process and having to keep track of all the characters so they didn't mess with the colours. The jump from cell animation to drawing on paper eased the tension this caused. Pokemon used cell animation for the series until episode 260, which aired in August 2002. From episode 261, the series went semi-digital. This implementation meant that the teams at OLM drew the keyframes and the in-betweens on paper, scanned those papers into a computer, and finally digitally coloured in the cuts using a computer program. This is the standard of which most anime is drawn still in 2019. Pokemon wasn't the first anime series to use digital colouring in this way though, with the first full-length series being Bit the Cupid in 1995, with Blood the Last Vampire being the first feature-length digitally coloured film in 2000 and fully coolly popularising the look and process in 2001. Most series being produced at this time had to hurry up and change this new workflow because Fujifilm was discontinuing their cell sheets, which was one of the biggest suppliers in Japan. The introduction of the digital colouring workflow into the differing teams at OLM for Pokemon was a gradual one, as was the implementation of it within the show. We first saw this animation style being used in the second opening, The Rivals, in just one cut of animation. They gradually moved up to fully animating the third opening OK this way, before moving on to episode 261, where they fully animated in the pen and paper digital style. Hiroyuki Kato, a producer on Pokemon, spoke with Animation Week in 2016 about the then upcoming Sun and Moon series, and explained that the team gradually introduces concepts over a period of time to help the audience transition easier. This included introducing visual noise to the digitally coloured images from episode 261 onwards. Kanto explained that they added visual noise to the digitally coloured image, which invoked the impression of a cell-like image rather than a digitally coloured image, which the photographers at OLM then reduced the amount of noise gradually at a pace our viewers could get used to the change without noticing the difference between a cell colouring and a digital colouring. By the time they reduced the noise to zero, the rest of the anime industry had caught up with their digital workflows and had learned how to fully utilise the technology, making the effect useless. They used the same process for introducing CG to the audience and the animators. Kanto explains that OLM only started with like 5 CG cuts in a 30-minute episode when it was first introduced, and have ramped that up to at least 100 CG cuts in an episode. The CG elements became more prominent in Diamond and Pearl, with more orbs and fire over the top of the traditionally animated animation. This became more noticeable when, at episode 587, the series went high definition, filling out the full 16:9 frame. You can really see the difference between the standard definition and the high definition animation by watching the previous episode back to back with the new HD episode, which summed up the team's adventures through Sinnoh up until then in a clip show format. Another great comparison is in episode 116 of the Best Wishes saga, when they reanimated classic scenes revolving around Ash's Charizard from the original series. These scenes, while they look like they use the same storyboards as the original series, were updated to reflect Black and White's character designs and animation techniques. One of the most interesting comparisons though is Charmander evolving. In the original series, Charmander just sort of glowed and grew, while in the newly animated version he becomes this weird blob thing that transforms, kind of like a Ditto. This evolution style was expanded upon again in Sun and Moon, where they kept the blobby style while Charjabug evolves into Vikavolt, but have adapted it to the more fluid style of the Sun and Moon series, making it look more interesting. The series continued to evolve during the XY saga, where they did away with the static backgrounds that were plaguing the series since its inception that made Best Wishes look dated, and instead for key scenes, the teams used CG backgrounds for a majority of the cuts, with the characters and other elements being done on key. This breathed new life into the series and helped bring back some disenfranchised fans. The first time this is shown off is in episode 1 of the XY saga, when Fletchling is flying through the house. Dynamic shots like these are littered throughout the series and only got better and better as the team got more used to the tool. A great example of this is the Ash vs Diantha fight. All the elements that the teams at OLM have used up until this point come together to form a breathtaking sequence like this. Even though the teams at OLM nearly perfected Pokemon's animation, at least in the eyes of the fans, the team decided in 2015 to start testing a fully digital workflow, with everything done by computers, tablets, and the program suite, Toon Boom. They tested out measures by getting small pockets of their animators to try out different animation techniques in Toon Boom to learn the program and adapt it for a Japanese animation workflow. They even created their own manuals to help future anime studios use the programs. They started using the software sparingly in XY with only a few cuts here and there, but fully embraced it for the Hooper shorts that only ran under a minute to promote the then upcoming film. But Pokemon Sun and Moon is when the team went fully digital. The majority of the series is made using various digital tools. In Japan, the teams mostly use the Toon Boom suite to create the storyboards and keyframes, like they would have on paper, whilst the newly formed OLM Asia, based in Malaysia, use Clip Paint Studio for the animation process and Paintman for the finishing process. The team at OLM wanted to replace the entire process of animation with a digital workflow, and in some respects they succeeded with the Toon Boom range of software and After Effects, of which OLM used in their existing workflows beforehand. Though this doesn't mean paper still isn't used in the animation process, with Masaki Iwane saying on Twitter that they still used paper in February 2019. While the software is important, what it creates is the most important. Being able to go fully digital mixed with the loose character designs of Sun and Moon has let the animators go crazy with the level of animation in the series, giving the show so many more Sakuga moments and letting the characters be less stiff. Character designer on Pokemon Sun and Moon, Satoshi Nakano, explained in an interview with Animage that he tried to design the characters to be a bit more flexible, giving the characters as wide of a range as movement as possible to make them easier to draw while also being careful not to lose what makes them who they are as characters. You can see this on the character sheet shown off in the magazine, translated by Dogasu. These fundamental changes in how the characters were designed let the animators have free rein to let loose with the animation and create a magical animation experience. While the character designs weren't that well received in the beginning from fans, once the first episode had aired and people could see what this new style could bring to the series, people were hooked. Personally, I love the WebGen style of animation that is breaking through the anime industry right now. Without it, we wouldn't have such great looking anime like One Punch Man, Mob Psycho 100, or Dragon Ball Super, which was super well received for its animation, pioneered by Pokemon Sun and Moon 2 years before it. How will the Pokemon anime look for Generation 8? We don't know. I hope they keep on the same track as Pokemon Sun and Moon and less like the upcoming Mewtwo fully 3D CGI film, but time will tell. So that has been the evolution of the Pokemon anime series' animation. While of course there are so many different aspects to dive into, like character design changes, or even how the film series has evolved over the years, they'll have to be for another time. So what has been your favourite style of Pokemon anime animation? Let me know down in the comments section down below. I also want to thank all my patrons who make videos like this possible. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please head over to my Patreon and help me out in creating more content like this. But until next time, I've been Doc Dazza, Martane.